This is Elliot Boyce.
And this is Ayrshire Insights.
Welcome back to Ayrshire Insights with me, Elliot Boyce. And as promised, we have a brilliant guest on today's show for this week's Local Legend Spotlight. This man is a director of one of the leading business insurance brokers in Ayrshire. I'm delighted to welcome Tom Yorke from Blue Rock Insurance Brokers in Ayrshire. Tom, a massive thanks for coming on the show today.
Hey Elliot, good to be here.
So before we find out about how it all started, we want to know a little bit about you. So first of all, are you a broker or a joker?
Oh, I would say I'm a broker.
Underwriter or overthinker?
Aye, overthinker probably.
Premiums or pyjamas?
Premiums.
There we go, right, brilliant. Now, we are going to find out a lot more about Tom Yorke very soon.
Tune in live every Sunday from 10 a.m. for Ayrshire Insights with Elliot Boyce.
Only on Now Ayrshire Radio.
Now Ayrshire.
So Tom, where did you grow up?
I was born in, or brought up originally in Prestwick until I was about 6, and then we moved to England. Lived in the Lake District and came back up to Scotland when I was 17. So all my school was in England.
Now, what was your first job?
My first job when I was at school was a tyre fitter. Well, prior to that, I was a milkman for a week. The early
starts.
That didn't suit me. But that was my Saturday job, and my school holidays job was fitting tyres.
So from fitting tyres to now being a director of one of the leading insurance brokers here in Ayrshire, what was the journey in that? What other jobs did you have in between?
I suppose when I left school, what I was interested in was engineering, which I've still got an interest in. I've got a lot of customers in that field with, engineers making things, plant operators, etc. I've always found that stuff interesting. But that was in the days when there still were some apprenticeships in engineering, but the queue out the door was massive. So I was kind of struggling. I went to see the careers guy in Ayr, and he said, Giles Insurance Brokers are looking for an office junior. You've got maths and English, why don't you just go along? So I went along there with my crash helmet, not dressed for an interview, got that job. And I just enjoyed it. I just loved it. I found quite a lot of. I found that maybe not so much the work, because certainly if you're at a junior level in that sort of business, it's not exciting work, but just a lot of interesting differences amongst the customers.
How did you go then from starting at that level, getting in essentially as the office junior, to now becoming a director? Did you stay with the same company?
I did for a while, yeah. I opened up, I stayed with them for a while, opened up their first English office, moved back down to England. So opened up an office in Birmingham in 97. So I started with them in 87 from school. So in 97 we opened in Birmingham, and I came back up. The business was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I moved back up to Scotland, and it was then my idea. By then I'm in my sort of mid-30s. It was my idea to do my own thing, and as the business I was working in got bigger and bigger, I discovered I liked that less and less. I much preferred a smaller organisation that was a bit more fleet of foot. You could just decide to do something and start it this afternoon. It didn't have to go through 2 layers of 3
Governance
layers.
and sign-offs.
Exactly. You could just get things done.
So making the jump from employed to self-employed, it's obviously a massive jump to take on. How did that become Blue Rock Insurance Brokers? Did you start Blue Rock Insurance, or where did the journey go from there?
No, as I said, I was kind of thinking about it. I was looking for something to do. A recruitment consultant phoned me up and said a guy, Brian Murphy, who I was aware of. Brian had a brokerage in Ayr. He was looking for an office manager, and he was then going to sell the business. So I said to the recruiter I wasn't interested in being the office manager for a big broker, because that's what I was already doing, but I'd be interested in buying it from him, which was quite a gallus move at the time, because I had absolutely no money. So I had no idea really how I was going to do that. But I think it's one of these things, if you're looking for something, then you see opportunities. So I went to see Brian. Me and Brian must have spoke about this for 12 months. And then eventually I joined Brian as an employee. A few years later I bought in with him as a partner, remortgaged the house. My wife let me use her life savings. So did all that, bought into the business. And then one of my pals from Giles talked to him into joining us, and the two of us bought Brian out in 2015. So we're just coming up on 10 years since we did that, and then we rebranded as Blue Rock.
Right, so it is a massive gamble, and I think a lot of people, the people see the rewards of maybe being a director of a company and getting to that level, but clearly investment, I mean, I'm pretty sure you're taking your wife's savings. If that hadn't gone to plan, it'd be a very difficult conversation to have, and also remortgaging the house, a massive gamble. Do you feel that the gamble was something that paid off quite quickly, or did you have those kind of nervousness as you were going through it?
I think there's a bit of nerves, because you're right. There's a bit of jeopardy involved. So not just all the savings are gone. The house is now mortgaged to the absolute maximum that it can be, but also I'm going to start this business, and the other good news is I'm not going to pay myself a salary for 3 months, and ongoing. That we've had episodes like that again where we've chosen to invest. So you're the last one to get paid as the business owner, but we spoke about that. John and I, before we did this, we obviously discussed it a lot, and both of us had been working separately, worked together and separately. Neither of us had ever had a year where we hadn't made somebody money. So it seemed unlikely that we would go on our own with all that jeopardy and suddenly start losing money.
Yeah, and when you look at insurers, I think as a whole, an insurer is risk management. So any decision like buying into a business involves an element of risk management. Is that something that you and through your journey you'd never made really mention studying? It always just seemed to be progression through. Did you have to have qualifications behind you, or was it kind of in-house training qualifications? How did that work? A bit of both.
A lot of on the job. I am ACII, which is a sort of degree level. You don't have to do that though. Most people I think now probably don't do it, but I did that. I did an MBA, which my employer financed when I was in my late 20s at Birmingham Uni, and I'm a chartered insurance broker personally. So there are qualifications, but it's interesting. There's no qualifications required, which a lot of people are surprised to hear. You could be an insurance broker this afternoon if you wanted.
Yeah, there we go. I'll just add that onto the many list of jobs that I'm currently going through at the moment. Now, a massive, interesting conversation. Really interested to find out how it all started and the journey and the risk involved. And for somebody who essentially works with risk every single day, it just shows that you've had to make that and the choice yourself in order to get to where you're at today. Now, we're delighted to hear about that, and we're also going to talk about the big wins and the biggest lessons just after this.
This is the Ayrshire Insights Podcast.
Never miss an episode. Hit subscribe now.
So, Tom, what's a day in the life of a Blue Rock broker really like?
Well, I think it starts off with a well-honed to-do list, and then by about 9:05, that's all falling apart, because what you have is your customers need things, and particularly if your customers have a disaster. So if somebody's had even what seems to us a relatively minor road accident. And I say it seems to us because we see it all the time. It's an everyday occurrence for us, but it's not for our customer. That's the thing. It doesn't happen. It's very unlikely to happen to you, but it's happening to somebody every single day. So so that has to then take precedence. Or your customer suddenly tells you that they've bought a new building, and that's happening. An hour from now. That's quite often as well. So your best plans get derailed. But really it's about being organised, being in front of you've got these renewal dates coming. You need to be sort of 3 months out from that, meeting up with your customer, finding out what's changed, making sure they're still compliant with all these terms and conditions that they have to be compliant with, all that small print, and just getting ready for that. So you've got to be ahead of it because you don't know what's going to happen. The unexpected's expected.
What's the difference between a broker and an insurer? So you're a broker, but like for me, for my car insurance, would probably go directly to an insurer. What's the big difference there? Do you carry the risk?
So yeah, we're not risk carriers. We're basically an intermediary. So you would the insurer pays the claims ultimately. So as an intermediary, we tend to deal with the more complex business insurance. So if we would take all the details, look at the risk, give you some advice around that, and then we would go and find the appropriate insurer for you, because not every insurer will cater for every business risk.
Very interesting to hear the differences, because at the end of the day people just see that word insurance, and as far as they're concerned, it doesn't matter where it comes from. They just know that if something goes wrong, that's who's getting the phone. Hopefully they end up getting the money to cover whatever's happened. Now, throughout your business there's always a lot of challenges. What would you say your hardest days been? You must get some hard days with people phoning with some absolute disasters, but what's your hardest day in running Blue Rock?
We do. I think we get, again, it's customers. It's something really disastrous, a major fire. We haven't had loads of those, but we have had them. And your customers there, and it's their life's work that's up in smoke, and they're very, very emotional. So yeah, we've been on site with people in tears, literally. So that's tough. And you want to be reassuring. The way that we do things helps us feel more certain that they're going to be all right at the end of it. That, from a cash perspective, but you can't do anything about that emotion. You can't insure anybody against those feelings.
Hard days in terms of the job, what would you say the hard days in terms of running a business is? So every business owner, whether it's insurance, whether it's dumper trucks, whether it's fire engines, whatever it may be, everyone's got challenges. What would you say the hardest part about running a business is?
I think probably a lot of people I speak to, it's staff. It's finding people, training them, retaining them, trying to keep everybody happy, trying to make sure that if you make some mistakes, as you will do, that you don't let them just run on forever. So if you, and by that I mean if you've got somebody who doesn't fit in the team, who's been disruptive, you just have to take action and do something about it. But it's tough. It's tough to do that.
Now, throughout your business, there is some hard days, but I'm sure there's also some proud days. What would you say your proudest moment is?
I think as we move through, being able to pay myself a salary was a good day. But as we move through these things and we hit milestones, you sort of look back and go, we're actually doing something good here, and you get some nice recommendations from customers. But I think it's every time those milestones go, right, that's it, we've doubled the size of that business, we've trebled the size, we've quadrupled the size of the business. When you hit all those, you look back and say, no, actually, we set out this plan and it's coming together.
Meeting and exceeding the plan.
Aye, that's right.
Now, again, running through business, there's a lot of difficult decisions that have to be made. What would you say one of the most difficult decisions that you've had to make during your journey's been?
I think probably I touched on it earlier. It's been having to agree with people that it's time for them to maybe move on somewhere else, better for them and better for us. But those are always really, really difficult, difficult conversations to have, and I think that's probably why a lot of people avoid the conversation. Yeah, and it's no good for anybody.
No, it's not for the person, not for everybody else round about them, or for the business.
No, absolutely, because they'll move on and they'll find their niche. They'll find something that they're somewhere else where they fit in better. We are very fussy about how we do things, so we're not for everybody. So we just need to accept that. But it's difficult. It's tough to do that.
Finding the right people, it's a challenge across every industry. Now, Blue Rock, as a business, how would you say that your approach, you said there that you've obviously got your unique ways of working, but how would you say your approach differs from traditional insurance firms?
Aye, well, this was one of the things that we always spoke about, John and I, when we worked together. We would prop up the bar on a Friday night and moan about how everything was terrible. But yeah, we always thought there was just we came to the conclusion that there was a fundamental problem with how insurance was arranged, and just a lack of explaining. So typically somebody will come out, they'll take a whole load of details, they'll come back some point later with a quote, armed with not much more than a comparison of prices. You'll probably take the lowest one, and that's kind of it. And then at some stage you'll get an insurance document through the email or the post, It will tell you have to read it, how important it is you read it, all the terrible things that will happen to you if you don't read it, and then you don't read it because it's longer than Macbeth and more boring, and you've not read that either. So you won't read it, and then bad things will happen or may happen as a result. That thing's full of terms and conditions. So we said, look, if you could take a lot more time, actually pull these conditions out of this policy, say these are the important ones, using our judgment, and say, do you comply with this condition? And maybe you don't, but maybe the insurance company will be all right with that if we tell them what you do. It's maybe slightly different, but it might be okay. Or maybe there's something you can change so you do comply. And then while we're actually on your premises, let's go and have a look and make sure that you comply, that the situation's okay. And then you can actually create a situation where the insurance company has no choice but to pay your claim. And actually, despite what a lot of people think, insurance companies don't want to avoid claims. It's quite black and white for them. It's just a contract. Yeah. So if you uphold up your end of it, they'll
uphold theirs.
Exactly, aye. That's very simply how they see it.
Now, talking about that again, and this is probably where the difficult conversations are, but you as an intermediary, if you're doing your job and explaining and verifying that the businesses are working to the terms and conditions, great. Have you had occurrences where there maybe has been a claim, it's been through, and they've not held up the bargain? That must be a really difficult conversation to have with a business owner.
Yes, we have had that, and not so much the terms and conditions, but the information that we've been given hasn't been correct. And I can think of one in particular. I won't get into too much detail on it, but the director hadn't given us the correct information about their past history. I suspect if you were being charitable, it was possibly because they were embarrassed about that past history. But we had asked the question, we'd asked it a few times, and we hadn't been told the truth. But it was a big claim, and if there's enough zeros on the end of the claim, then the insurance adjuster is doing a lot more checking. Due diligence. So it all came out, and then that claim's not getting paid. And despite we were looking at that and saying, well, we did our best. We asked. We told them the consequences. We asked again. We asked every year, and we were never told the truth. But we still feel terrible about it.
Yeah. Do you find that in terms of the due diligence, and you said insurance is black and white, and they'll look at both, but is it as simple as if there is something that isn't quite true, even if that specific circumstance might not affect the claim that's happened, if there's a differential there from what the truth is, it's a kind of straight no to the insurance?
I think we get attempts sometimes from insurers to do that, and I think that's probably where as a broker you're going to earn your money, because we'll quite often push back against that. And sometimes it's not underhand by the insurer. Sometimes it's actually lack of knowledge from their employees, where they're trying to say that something's not covered or shouldn't be paid, but we can actually make representations on behalf of our customer and get these decisions overturned very often.
So without it being a sales pitch for your company, if you have got and you're having to manage a significant amount of risk, there is a massive benefit in having that intermediary there to look through it, where you don't maybe have the risk management insurance people within, which most businesses, even of a decent size, probably don't have within their organisation.
No, exactly, that's right. I think most of the businesses that we are dealing with, which would be SMEs, they don't have that resource to talk about.
Probably don't need it.
Exactly.
It's something that should be kind of third party and can manage externally, probably and hopefully once a year, unless something happens, to which point you're then going to the advisor and getting assistance.
No, exactly, and we are there to advise. We're not there to push products necessarily, because we sometimes come across people that are buying things and we'll say, well, actually, what's the worst claim that you could have out of this, and is it worth paying the amount of money you're paying to protect that? To
self-insure.
Well, exactly. Sometimes you might as well do that. If you're a company with 40 mobile phones, you're not going to lose 40 of them. You're going to lose one,
which is not going to cost you to put 40 in.
So it probably costs you more than a phone to insure them all. So don't bother with all that stuff.
Again, part of the intermediary process where people might think, well, I've got them, I need to insure it. There might be a sense check approach to it.
Yeah, 100%.
So what is the most unusual business you've ever insured?
I think I have some clients who start doing some strange some strange things. It's when you start getting things where especially some of the marine stuff. Some of the marine stuff can be really unusual. We've got a client just now running a ferry across a loch to take out timber because it's cheaper than bringing it around the road, and that sort of comes out of nowhere, and you have to kind of create a solution for that because they're the only people doing that particular job. So we get some weird and wonderful things on that front.
Do you find that with the majority of insurers, see if something is a bit weird and wonderful, is the common answer no, or do they? Is there a conversation there where you can go, right, well, think about it, it's similar to this, and is that where you come in as an intermediary? Where
you've got a real challenge. Insurers are willing, but if you're going to have to take up the time of an underwriter, an experienced underwriter, then there probably has to be some value in it. So where we actually have some real difficulty is if you're doing something quite unusual on a very small scale, because you're not generating the revenue to probably pay the premium for
underwriters, and the cost of actually coming up with the policy and what the terms are.
So you sometimes come across that where you've got small companies with big company problems.
Yes,
and that can be quite challenging to try and get that in within budget, and get an insurance company to listen to you. When the return for them is not going to be substantial, but that's really when you're trying to use your relationships a little bit, get some flex out of some of those relationships and friendships that you've got in the market for somebody basically to help you out and do you a favour.
Yeah.
But you need a broker to do that. You're not going to get that stuff done.
Just be phoning up one of the 0300 or 0800 numbers online and ask her, can I get a quote for something random?
Get through to the call centre. No, it's not. That's not happening. No.
Now, very interesting. Insurance is something that I think everyone of a certain age and over will have been involved in, whether that's through motor insurance, through house insurances and contents, buildings covers, and I'm pretty sure throughout everyone's life there will have probably been at least an insurance claim or so that you've been involved in.
Now streaming
Ayrshire Insights, hosted by Elliot Boyce.
This is Now Ayrshire Radio.
Now, Tom, it's time to talk community, charity and Ayrshire pride. But before we find out your links to the community, the listeners have been in touch and let me know what their weekly bargain is. So the question to you, what's your bargain of the week that you've managed to get for less than a tenner?
Oh, I can do better than that, Elliot. I can give you something that's absolutely free. So I've started this year walking. So just walking every morning. That sounds quite wonders a bit. It's just for like half an hour every morning when I get up. Just go for a walk, get that early morning daylight, and I've just found, it lifts your mood, it gets you in a better frame of mind to start the day. It's maybe eventually going to cause me to lose some weight, I don't know. But aye, that's my bargain. That's free. You do that for anywhere for nothing.
And you're talking about that in August. I'm looking forward to finding out all about that in about February or March next year.
Aye.
It was really good to get out the walk this morning.
Aye, horizontal rain.
Right, Tom, back to you. Why support local causes like us here at Now Ayrshire Radio?
I think that's really important. I think we're a reasonable sized firm, but we sometimes get very, very large multinational brokers saying that customers should be with them just because they're bigger. But I think we all know from a service point of view, all of my customers are not the biggest in their sector, but they're probably better to deal with than their bigger rivals. And I think we all kind of intuitively know that. So I think there's a lot of stuff is getting, bought up, private equity, getting combined. Smaller local stuff is not actually local anymore, and you're not dealing. I'm walking around. I have to bump into the people that I deal with. I have to live in the same town as my customers, so I have to take what I'm doing seriously. And I think that sort of local circular economy thing is really important.
I actually totally agree. I think the one thing that you seem to be losing more and more when you're dealing with anybody is, even when you're phoning up call centres now, you're not speaking to people that are able to really make a difference, and it's no fault of the people that are answering the phones. They've got scripts, they've got but the yes/no questions, and as far as they can take it, whereby having that person that you can chat with or phone the mobile.
Yeah.
Listen, I've got a problem with that. How can you help me out? I think that's something that makes a massive difference to me in my business life and things that I do, and also has that impact. And mentioning that about us here at Now Ayrshire Radio, we're small, we're local,
Yep.
we're here in Ayrshire, and we're here for the people of Ayrshire, and that's something that we're very proud on. And one of the things that you'll see around about the studio here today is that our tagline of that local feeling. What does that local feeling mean to you?
Yeah, that's a good one. Look, I think that is. I think there's something authenticity. You know, I think sometimes we've lost that. Sometimes when, as you said, you know, you're dealing with call centres, and not to criticise those guys or those companies, but there's no real genuine, link or the same degree of care, and I think a sense of community that maybe we're in danger of losing if we're not careful. So I think all of that stuff's really important.
How do you think your business has made an impact locally?
Well, look, certainly we've dealt with. I know for sure. Almost every new customer we pick up had some sort of hidden problem with their insurance, and by changing what they do, we've either made them less risky businesses, so they're maybe been less inclined to have an incident, or where they've had an incident, we've been able to get them back on track. Whereas, and we know for sure under their previous insurance arrangements, that could have been a problem for them. So we've definitely had an impact. It's probably a hidden impact, but we do deal with most of our customers are local, most of our suppliers are local. We advertise locally wherever possible. You know, we support Ayr Rugby, Ayr United Football Club with sponsorship. So we really want to be part of the local community.
Thanks for that, Tom. So we're going to finish strong with a fun round and find out what's next for Blue Rock Insurance just after this.
Uncovering Ayrshire's stories.
Welcome to Ayrshire Insights with Elliot Boyce.
It's now time for 5 fast ones. So Tom, I don't want you to think about it. Just shout out the first answer that comes to your head. Are you ready to play 5 fast ones?
Aye, let's go for it.
Right, favourite takeaway?
Lampasanda.
Song that always lifts your mood?
Madness House of Fun.
Best thing about Ayrshire?
The people, good crack.
What's your go-to coffee order during a crisis claim?
A couple of double espressos.
Who plays you in the movie of your life?
Oh, Liam Neeson did a good insurance guy once.
There we go. Right, thanks for playing 5 fast ones. We'll be asking our guests every week to get involved. So what is next for you and your business?
It's the same again. We keep having meetings and looking at each other and say, right, shall we stick or twist? Same again. We've had a bit of a consolidation for the last kind of 12 months, and get ready to go again for another round of growth. We've managed sort of 20% every year growth, so it gets harder because the 20% gets bigger. So same again.
What's one thing that you hope for Ayrshire's future?
I think just, you know, a bit more confidence. I'd like to see more people taking a chance and starting up businesses. We're always very keen to try and support that, because that's what's going to make the world go round. What
would you say to somebody that's listening that might be starting a business or looking from it and looking for that insurance assistance? What's the best thing to do to start off with?
I would say, come and speak to us, or speak to a good broker. Find a broker. Don't worry about insurance companies at that stage. Find a good broker, somebody who'll listen, somebody who understands what you're talking about, and somebody who can get something that's going to be within budget for you. Because there's going to be two things. There's going to be covering every risk imaginable, and there's going to be, at the outset, let's just do the things that are going to wipe us out. What's going to be what's going to be game over if it happens, and just look at insuring that stuff. And maybe hope for a wee bit of luck, because budget's crucial at the outset. So I could sell you insurance till you've no money left, but you need a broker who's going to be practical about that.
It's all good having all the cover, but unless the cover can be justified to your revenue and what you're bringing in, it's that a balancing act.
Yeah, you've got to prioritise at the outset.
And also to calculate risk. I mean, what is the risk of said thing? If that was to happen, is that something that I could afford? Do I need to have the coverage in place and looking at that?
Yeah, I think people tend to focus on physical assets, and because that's the obvious stuff, you can see it and feel it. But actually, some of the bigger claims that'll wipe you out might be the liability stuff and the people. So somebody getting injured, that's the life changing stuff.
On that, and it's something that I think that, without saying that we're Americanised, but I feel that we're moving towards that. I mean, every day you can listen to any station anywhere at all, and there's the 0%, it's no claim, no pay type things. Do you feel that's happening more and more now? Are we living in a more claim society?
I think, without a doubt, I think the situation that we've created in this country. We used to laugh at the Americans. Our system's worse now.
The no win, no fee.
Aye, yeah.
So you talk about that, and fundamentally, and this is something that I think it's important now. Listen, when you say no win, no fee, if something's happened, people are absolutely entitled to claim. However, fundamentally, who pays for it?
Aye, and you're right. I mean, but if somebody's injured and it's not their fault, they should be compensated. And in the old days, it wasn't great because people would miss out. In the days of, if you weren't eligible for legal aid, you would need to try and support that yourself. So, that was very difficult. So it's just we've swung too far. So people need to be compensated. It's just the system, it seems to me, doesn't need to be quite as expensive as it is. So we see how much the injured party gets, but we also then see what everybody else is taking out of it, and it can be as much or more.
And you look at these situations, and there's always people in the background. The person that might have been injured that affects it will get a very small proportion in comparison to what a lot of the process and people in the background are really taking from that.
Aye, no, that's it. Injured parties should be compensated, but the system doesn't need to cost as much.
Okay, so before we finish off, do you have any final shout outs and thanks?
I think particularly big thanks to my wife for trusting me to spend her life savings and remortgage her house and not pay myself for 3 months, because it wouldn't have happened without her understanding. And just all our staff and customers, and especially at the outset, that trusted us. And the whole thing has been trust. And even Brian, who sold me his business, he funded part of that. Yeah. He funded part of that with loan notes. So the whole thing has been trust all along, and you should never take that for granted.
Amazing. Thank you very much for coming on the show today. Really enjoyed speaking to you, Tom. Tom Yorke from Blue Rock Insurance Brokers in Ayrshire. Thanks again, Tom.
Thanks, Elliot.
This is the Ayrshire Insights Podcast.
Never miss an episode. Hit subscribe now.